Imagine two friends who are only acting as enemies, or two cousins who are in a power struggle but they want you to fight for it, or three feathers from the same ancient Egyptian Roman eagle competing worldwide religiously. And don't forget, under the Roman calendar, both Islam and Catholics partake in the slavery within the continent of Ethiopia. First on the east side, then on the west side. So let's read what Haile Selassie said. It is also recorded that after the crowning of Haile Selassie, letters were sent to all heads of states that he will no longer address by the name of Rastafari, but Haile Selassie, meaning power of the Holy Trinity. His baptism and throne name. In other words, don't call him Ras, for Ras means dread. He's not a dread. Ras also means prince. He's no a prince. He's the king of all kings. And Ras means duke. So it's insulting to call a king prince. So let's read what Selassie also has to say. No gift will gratify the man who, untrue to this noble cause, serves for riches alone. The love of money can determine a man's price. In other words, don't sell your soul like these guys. Under the synagogue of Satan, the Jewish Talmud, which basically teaches the Torah, they say that blacks are cursed. The Jewish Talmudic rabbis corrupted the biblical story of Noah and turned it into a racist curse of Ham. It teaches that blackness of skin is a curse from God, and are big lips and also gelated penises. The curse the rabbis taught made the African fit for slavery to whites. The Jewish created curse of Ham was adopted by almost every other major religion, including Islam, to justify African slavery, Jim Crow laws, and white supremacist violence. Don't forget, they're all under the Roman calendar. Hence, they go out their way to hide the past. For example,
Page got a patent for his airship in 1906, before the Wright brothers. But Page's story takes an unusual turn. He planned to enter his airship in a competition for a $100,000 prize at the 1904 Louisiana Purchase Exposition in St. Louis.
He took his life savings. He built a working model, tested it at his home in Pineville, and then shipped it off by train to St. Louis, Missouri, where he was going to fly the airplane in St. Louis, Missouri, and then become a chapter in all of our history books.
But the aircraft never arrived at the World's Fair.
His plane was destroyed or stolen, possibly due to the fact he was an African American.
Page got a patent for his airship in...
you see, they go out their way to hide the past. For example,
now when I go to Google Translate, indigenous from Latin to English means the same. So let's flip it around. Now, from English to Latin, indigenous means nativus. As you can tell, it means native in Latin. Let's keep going. And what does nativus mean? From Latin to English, native. Now, we know native means you're just born in a place, but your ancestors are from another place. You were just born here. That's native. That's why we can't be Native Americans. Let's keep going. Now, Aboriginal. If we put Aboriginal in the translate area from Latin to English, it just means Aboriginal. There's nothing there. But check this out. As I tell everyone, you're going to have to space out the ab and original so it says from the original. If you put them together, ab meaning no, like abnormal, it means you're not original. Let's keep going. Now, if we do it from English to Latin, Aboriginal means archetypus, which, as you know, means archetype. And look at that at the bottom. Indigene, native, Aboriginal, they all mean the same. So I keep saying, don't say that. I got a word for you. Hold on. Archetypus means archetype, which means a very typical example of a certain person or thing. We already covered.
remember where we are all from. Psalm 87 makes it clear. His foundation is in the holy mountains. Jehovah is more in love with the gates of Zion than with all the tabernacles of Jacob, who is also Israel. Glorious things are being spoken about you, O city of true God, Selah. For Selah is just another name for Jacob. With Cush, means Abyssinia or Ethiopia, this one was born there. And respecting Zion, it will be said, each and every one was born in her. And the Most High himself would firmly establish her. Jehovah Selah. So let's watch who's the king of Zion and what he said about being a descendant of Solomon and Sheba, who are meant to be here in the latter years.
You are descended, Your Imperial Majesty, from King Solomon and the Queen of Sheba.
Notice a white reporter from Canada is telling him that he's a descendant of Solomon and Sheba, even though his Ethiopian Bible, which every Bible is translated out of the Ethiopian original tongues, tells us that Sheba is supposed to be here in the latter years, in the final part of the years with Solomon. Therefore, King David is supposed to be here now in the 20th century.
This is just our story, ancient story.
Notice he's speaking proper English. He could have easily said, yes, I am a descendant of Solomon. Instead, he said, this is just a story, our ancient story. It's a story about Sheba going to check Solomon. So he said story 3 times.
The Queen of Sheba, she grew to visit Solomon, King Solomon. She met one son. She returned back to her country.
Our story.
And became regent. He became emperor on November 2nd, 1930, and was crowned Haile Selassie I, King of Kings, King of Zion, conquering lion of the seed of Judah.
In other words, Abyssinia means Zion. So Ethiopia is Zion itself. And they didn't teach you this.
Do you agree Jesus has a God?
Yeah, I believe Jesus is God.
No, does he have a God?
Does Jesus have a God?
Yes.
God the Father.
So he has a God?
Sure.
Does your God have a God?
In semantics, yes.
What do you mean semantics? In any context, does he have a God?
When Jesus prays to God, yes, he prays to a God, yes.
Does God the Father have a God?
Yeah, Jesus.
Wait, God the Father has a God.
As in, God is speaking to...
Let me rephrase. Do you have a God?
Yes.
Do you have a God?
Yes.
You have a God, yes. Does Jesus have a God?
Jesus is praying to his God, the Father, in
You
his...
see, earlier you didn't give me all these explanations. You just said, yes, like that.
You know, make up your mind. For there's only one God, the Creator. And he told us where we were. We are all from Zion. Therefore, everyone comes from Ethiopia, including China.
And finally, we come to China and Japan. I just left China in March. I travel all the time because it's not enough just to read the books. If you're serious, you have to go out and do first-hand research. You have to be a detective to put this together. And so in China, I went over there. I didn't have a great desire to go there, but I knew my field was the African presence in Asia. China is a very ancient country. It's the largest country in Asia. I knew I had to go at some point, so I went. And I went over there with knowledge that the first people in China were black. I went over there with the knowledge that the historical tradition says that the first semi-divine emperor, Fu Si, is described as a woolly-haired African. I went over there with the knowledge that in the traditions of China, you have people called black dwarfs, the original people of China. I went over there knowing that the people who formed the Shang dynasty, the parent dynasty of China, was black. In fact, the Shang are described by their successors, the Zhou, as having black and oily skin. So I went over there to find another piece of the puzzle, and I could not find it. China is very interesting in the sense that it seems that the black presence in China has been erased from the historical memory. It's as though, although we have knowledge of them, photographs of them, there is no history of them. They have been removed from the tombs.
See, they go out their way to hide the past. So that's by creating an Old and New Testament format. They have you believe that the future is in the past. Jagai.
Reach the world after all, like King Selassie, the first. This is the master of verse with finalities, and the people have them selection for which them are reach when traveling.